The Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline.
Hey, Sandra. Thanks. See, what would I do without you? What would I do without the chat? I was just, actually, I was practicing my ventriloquism, and apparently it didn't work. I think I have it backwards. I think you're supposed to make sounds without your mouth moving, and I just flipped the whole thing. But now I know. Okay, so I'm supposed to not move my mouth and make sounds, not the other way around. Well, anyways, I was just saying I made it just in time. You can't tell any different because the stream starts on time, but I was just finishing something, getting my latte, and then I got in here right when it was time to hit go live. So anyways, hello. Hey, Sandro. Hey, anyone else who's in there? What should we talk about tonight? You know, I kept putting it off because I kept finding other interesting things to talk about. So maybe we'll talk about the mind uploading stuff tonight. Why not? I have nothing else planned, and I got a whole bunch of tabs open, so might as well go into that. Oh, in other weird news, you know how we've been talking about those scientists that have been dying mysteriously? We talked about it on the podcast, I think, on Sunday. I might have mentioned it on the stream. But I was watching this Jesse Michaels video about one of the scientists, and he's this... I mean, it was actually pretty wild because you just hear scientists go missing. You don't know anything about them. But he talked about, I only watched half the video, and he talked about two of them specifically, at least in that first half. And one of the guys, the guy he was mainly focusing on, is like the guy who would be at the top level of running all of the secret programs around, you know, secret materials science, and you know, basically like the guy. That was really interesting. Okay, I'm just looking at these retarded comments. Thank you for breaking my focus, you idiot. Okay, anyways, what was I talking about? So yeah, the weird scientist guy. Let me see if I can find something about that. Hold on, let me move my screen over. I have to reset my my screen capture because I had closed my... I should just leave OBS open. Let's see here. What am I on over here? Chrome? Okay, let me pull that up real quick. Yeah. And then let me go ahead and fit it to the screen. And then bring it down there. Okay, cool. Let's see. History. Where is it? I had a long drive today because I had to take one of the horses to the vet, so you can see some of the weird things I was looking at. Why do people see elves when they take DMT with Rupert Sheldrake? Nicholas Carlini, Black Hat LLMs. I actually didn't watch this Slavoj Žižek and Alex O'Connor. I think I just clicked on that by accident. Some weird music we were listening to. You want to hear some weird music real quick? You want to hear the stuff I'm into? All right, here you go. It's basically like that for about 30 minutes straight, but in varying tempos. So there you go. Anyways, some of this stuff was just weird ass. I don't even know if these people are just making shit up or what, but where like this kind of stuff, I'm just like, I don't know. It's weird. But this one here,
Jesse from her family.
This guy McCaslin, he's talking about, and he's this like Air Force general, and he went missing. He left his phone, his is that the Zelda theme? No. He left his phone, his Apple Watch, and something else. And so no electronics. And then he took his wallet, a .38 caliber revolver with the holster, and a red backpack, and just left. And they never found him. It's kind of weird. And so he goes into like the guy's whole career and everything, like all the programs he was a part of. Material wing director. I mean, he was like handling all kinds of stuff. Apparently, he had some meeting with Podesta, and basically, I think Jesse Michaels is trying to imply or build a case that the guy was sort of sympathetic to disclosure. See, here he is. Major General William McCaslin, Commander, Air Force Research Laboratory, Wright-Patterson. He went to the Air Force Academy. Astronautical engineering. I think he went to MIT as well. Let's see. He was at the National Reconnaissance Office. He commanded the Phillips site of the Air Force Research Laboratory. Vice Commander of Ogden Air Logistics and Space Missile Systems. He was at the Pentagon as the Director, Space Acquisition in the Office of Secretary of Air Force. Director of Special Programs. A bunch of stuff. So he wasn't just some random scientist that went missing. And then he was also talking about this other woman who is somehow connected with him. I'm not really sure. I don't remember what the connection was. But this woman here, Monica Reza. Where'd it go? There it is. Monica Reza. And her and Dallas Hardwick created some kind of materials that... different materials, but like these new alloys that were used for... basically, the U.S. had been dependent on a specific engine from Soviet Russia, and then so we had eventually made our own alloys to not have to be dependent upon them. And she's one of the ones that went missing as well. So I didn't finish it, but I guess there's a lot more. I haven't even gone through all of it, but it's just very weird, very, very weird. Oh, and then the reason I brought it up is because then also, let's see, do you guys know who? Shoot, what is the guy's name? David Wilcock. Look, first post. David Wilcock. That's weird. He apparently committed suicide. And that's weird. And Anna Paulina Luna is the one tweeting about it. Go figure, right? She's the one talking about the UFOs and the Book of Enoch and all that. David Wilcock. He's a significant figure in the disclosure movement. What the hell? That's so weird. That's very weird. It says is, so I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but everybody's acting like, it's definitely him. It hasn't changed his Wikipedia. But he's super into the whole UFO disclosure and other stuff. I don't honestly know that much about him. I know he created the Gaia thing. I think it's like a YouTube network, or maybe it's not YouTube, but like a Hulu kind of thing, I believe. Oh no, he co-hosted a thing. I thought he was the guy who created it, but whatever. So he's into all that stuff, and yeah, that's just kind of weird that he would suddenly, apparently, allegedly, kill himself. Yeah, see, they're talking about what happened to David Wilcock. Boulder death probe sparked concern about writer and UFO specialist. So I don't know if it's for sure confirmed. But, earlier today I was looking at it and everybody was talking about it. Here's Anna Paulina Luna. If you're feeling uneasy about the amount of scientists that have gone missing, died in recent suicides, ref those scientists and others, you are correct in your intuition. Something is up. Well, how do I know my intuition is correct? I'm just trying to see if there's anything else about it. I don't see anything else. Weird, right? Is that weird? We were just talking about this whole thing on the stream last night. But enough about that. Let's look at... Oh, yeah, I might as well just say something about this. Have you ever heard of this film, Metropolis? I had heard about it. Every once in a while, I'd see people making comments about it or something. But it was a film made in 1927, a German expressionist science fiction silent film. During the Weimar period, so pre-World War II, so between World War I and World War II, I guess. Yeah, 27. So it's set in a futuristic urban dystopia and follows the attempts of Frater, the wealthy son of the city master, and Maria, a saintly figure to the workers, to overcome the vast gulf separating the classes in their city and bring the workers together with Joe Fraterson, the city master. So it's just kind of weird. It popped up on in my algorithm, and I was like, I had actually never seen it before. So I started watching it. I didn't watch that much of it, only about 13 minutes or so, but because I saw a clip of it, and let me show you that clip. It was so weird. Where is it? Maybe it's the end of the movie? It was like the main woman doing this weird, like, burlesque-ish kind of ritualistic weird dance. It was super weird. But there's a people who are like, there's like a woman who's a robot. I don't know if they turn her into a robot or what, but here it is. So I don't know how the robot fits into it. I have no idea, just based on the plot description. But yeah, I was thinking about watching that at some point. But do I really want to spend 2 hours and 30 minutes? Why would I want to spend 2 hours and 30 minutes watching a movie when I could just talk to a camera for double that time? Priorities, right? Anyways, I feel like there's something there though, something weird there. Okay. Oh, I gotta switch my tabs here. Okay, let me open up another browser capture. Firefox. Which one is it? The one that says X? Yeah, this one. Okay, there we go. All right. So mind uploading. I figured it might just be fun to go through it and sort of see where it takes us. Just click things and kind of go into it. So mind uploading is a hypothetical process of whole brain emulation in which a brain scan is used to completely emulate a person's mental state in a digital computer. The computer would then run a simulation of the brain's information processing, such that it would respond in essentially the same way as the original brain and have a sentient conscious mind. I mean, just from that description, it doesn't really seem like it would be you. It would just be a copy. And if that's the case, then what would be the point exactly? Like, why? Among some futurists, and within part of transhumanist movement, Mind. That's a weird picture. Mind uploading is treated as an important proposed life extension or immortality technology known as digital immortality. But again, why would you assume you would be in the computer? Digital immortality. Hypothetical concept of storing a person's mind, or at least their personality, in digital substrate, i.e. computer, robot, or cyberspace. The result might look like an avatar behaving, reacting, and thinking like a person on the basis of that person's digital archive. See, again, how does that equal immortality? It just makes no sense. See here, the aim of Dmitry Itskov's 2045 initiative, we'll have to look at that, is to create technologies enabling the clone of an individual's personality to a non-biological carrier and extending existence, including the point of immortality. Am I missing something? Like, what am I missing here? Doesn't it just seem like you're just saying copy the person? But then how are you immortal in this situation? It makes no sense. Archiving and digitizing people, making the avatar live or live. I mean, I get that, like a monument, okay, sure. A copy, okay. I mean, I feel like if people are putting that much effort into it, they must believe at some level they are actually going to live forever. Otherwise, why would you give a shit? I feel like there's got to be some kind of like spiritual, religious aspect to it. Ship of Theseus. What does that have to do with anything? It's a paradox and common thought experiment about whether an object in the most common stating of the paradox of ship is the same object after having all of its original components replaced with others over time. Okay. I've heard that Ship of Theseus before. I didn't realize what it was referring to, though. Yeah, if you replace each part of the boat with another part over time and a completely new boat, is it the same ship? I mean, it's really only the same ship if you give it that meaning. It seems pretty obvious it's a different ship. Unless there's something intrinsic in the ship that remains, even after you change all the components, it's technically a different ship. Because, like, okay, don't take the ship apart. Just make an exact replica of it. Is it the same ship? Obviously not. I don't understand why that's even a thought. You say, but your body replaces all of its cells. Yeah, I would argue that there's a component of you that's inhabiting your body, fully integrated into your body, that is something in itself. So I don't think it's a valid analogy. Blue Brain Project. Digital reconstructions of the brain. Okay, well, that's just copying the brain. Technological resurrection. I feel like now we're getting somewhere. Hey, I literally just got this book in the mail. That's crazy. 1988 book Mind Children. Roboticist Hans Moravec. I literally just got that like yesterday, I think, in the mail. The reason I got it was because of the name Moravec. I looked him up. I think I may have looked him up on a stream. Because if you've read Ilium by Dan Simmons, no spoilers, don't worry, Sandro. Well, kind of spoilers, I guess. Not really. You'll find out in the very beginning of the story, like, there's robots that are from, like, Neptune or some shit. Neptune, Jupiter, Yeah, Saturn. I can't remember, but they're called Moraveks. I'm not spoiling anything. Don't worry, I'm not spoiling anything. Are they called Moraveks? Yeah, they're called Moraveks. And there's like different ones, and they have different constructions and so forth. But the reason why I ordered the book was because then I was reading Accelerando by Charles Stross, and he in Accelerando he gets contacted by this AI, which he doesn't realize what it is at first, and it's in the beginning of the book they describe there was an experiment where they were basically creating a digital simulation of a lobster's brain, neuron by neuron, and then eventually it's like it goes online and then it escapes its you know digital enclosure and like escapes online, and then it's reaching out to the main character saying that they want to like get off the planet because they think humans are crazy. But they talked about it as like the Moravec procedure, and I was like, Moravec, that's the same thing that they were referencing in Ilium. I didn't realize it was referencing an actual scientist. So anyways, I got the guy's book, Mind Children. So I won't spoil anymore, but when you read Ilium and then you read Accelerando, you'll be like, oh, interesting. It's almost like Simmons is, in a way, making an allusion to Ilium. I don't know if that's for sure. It could just be total coincidence. Proposed that a future supercomputer might be able to resurrect long dead minds from the information that still survived. Ray Kurzweil, American inventor and futurist, believes that when his concept of singularity comes to pass, it will be possible to resurrect the dead by digital recreation. I still don't see how that would be the actual person. I don't see how it would be the same person. Resurrecting deceased people with the help of quantum computers. Original person via copying to the future. Now this looks interesting. Science fiction novel Light of Other Days by Arthur C. Clarke, and Stephen Baxter. Now I have not read that. 2000. Wow. I've read a lot of Arthur C. Clarke, especially when I was younger. I read a lot of his stuff. You've probably heard of 2001: Space Odyssey. Well, so that's the book, and then there's a next one called 2010. I don't know what the subtitle is. And then there's 2065, and then there's another one called 3001. And those are pretty good. I'm trying to think what else I read of his. I know I read those. I don't really remember. Okay, so imagine a future civilization resurrecting the dead of past ages by reaching into the past through micro wormholes and with nano robots to download full snapshots of brain states and memories. That's interesting. Both the Church of Perpetual Life and the TerraSim movement consider themselves trans-religious and advocate for the use of technology to indefinitely extend the human lifespan. Okay, I gotta look at that. TerraSim. A group of 3 organizations based in the United States. Terra was inspired by Earthseed. The movement was founded by Martin Rothblatt. Ah, interesting. Cybernetic Beingness Revival. A multi-decade experiment to test the comparability of a single-person human consciousness with a digital representation of the same person created by personality software. Okay. Life Knot. Bina 48, that's the robot that he created as a copy of his wife. She created. World Against Racism Museum. Okay. 2B. A feature sci-fi film created in 2009. The script is based on real science and evolving technologies. Purports that the techno-human conundrum is the hottest and most controversial topic of the century. The project is designed to jumpstart the conversation about... Oh, I never heard of this movie. Set in the near future, 2B portrays a familiar, decaying world on the cusp of great transformation and awesome wonders. When the world's first transhuman is created by a renegade corporate CEO and bioscientist, the foundation of society's beliefs are threatened in a transhuman world where man merges with technology. Actually, you know, I think it might actually be interesting to look at that other video I was watching. Hold on. Let me see if I can find my browser. I was just thinking about that. Let's see, what is this? Not this one. That interview might be interesting to listen to. Let me find it. This one? Was it that one or the other one? I think it was... Okay, I want to listen to a little bit of this one. Okay, so... Once in a lifetime... Is this just intro? I don't like the teaser. I always hate when they do those teaser things. Heart-centered consciousness. Oh God. Your unique puzzle pieces. Remote viewing versus remote. Ugh. Let's see. Humanity as a collective mission. Who are his team of beings? Okay, let's see what he says.
When you speak about your team, I'm curious if you could share a little bit about this team.
Sure.
I've heard you have connected with the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, who apparently have really advanced technology, and even inner Earth beings. So could you share a little bit about how you work with them?
Yeah, certainly. So, and I know you wanted to discuss the remote viewing part, but we can do that in a little bit if you like. But I had this remote viewing experience, and that really, and I did it just to see if it would work. I didn't know at the time if it would, but I had read these professional people who had been a part of these programs, and they had phenomenal results. So having done that myself, I then had kicked on this ability to what I now call remote perception. So it's a little bit different from remote viewing. In remote viewing, there are very specific protocols in place for gathering data and being very neutral about what you're observing. But remote perception,
probably a good idea. Remote perception is you just go with however you feel about it. If it feels really good, you just follow it and then you just accept it.
Is a little bit different in that it's not just data you're collecting. You're having a bilocated visceral experience. I know some remote viewers might say there's not much difference there. But for me, having done remote viewing and having done this remote perception, there are differences in there where you're not there to necessarily collect data or collect information. You're there to have a full extended experience, both informationally and energetically as well, in a very different range. So this technique that my high self, my teams help me cultivate, and yes, you are right, it's my first connectivity experience, if you like, was with the Pleiadians, or my high self first, and then the Pleiadians. And I worked with a lot of healing with their information and guidance, what they were giving me for quite some time. And then the Arcturians introduced themselves, and then they started helping me with technologies, innovations, ideas, concepts, those kind of things as well. But essentially, this bilocation or remote perception involves going into a certain state and then allowing your higher self to oversee it. That's very important. I think that's something which I've seen a lot.
I think that's actually a problem because you're having to go into a state. That means it's not consistent, it's not stable. So it's not something that's really you, it's you're going into a state, which means you really can't trust it.
A lot of people, as a step they miss, which I think is a step I would always encourage people to do, is to go through and via your let your higher self oversee it, because your higher self has 100,000-foot view of everything, and knows you inside and out, and knows energetically what in any given moment would be appropriate for you, what might be too much, or what might be not what you're looking for right now.
It's just like people thinking AI knows everything. You see the problem with that? It's like it's not you trusting yourself, trusting your understanding, testing things, being honest. It's the belief that this higher self knows more and has your best interests at heart. It could literally just be a construct. You don't fucking know what it is. But that doesn't mean there can't be some interesting things that people say in those contexts. I'm going to see what he says about dimensions.
Well, it's interesting because my eyes, my inner eye, whatever you want to call it, has been open in a very different direction, having been explained a lot of things by these beings about what is different to my training as a physicist of how things work and how they don't work. Dimensions being one of them. So in physics, dimensionality is just orthogonal coordinate systems where you can plot a point of an event or an object happening within a space. So 3 dimensions is X, Y, and Z.
Which is literally just a construction following from Descartes. It's not actually how reality works. It's just a modeling that we're doing based on mathematics. It's not a real thing. So he's got a cool point there.
A 4th dimension might be time, but you can't see that because we see things in 3 dimensions. And so in string theory, the theories operate in multiple dimensions depending on the type of string theory you're talking about. And they describe rolling and compactifying them up into small circles or toroids that are sort of subdimensions within the greater space. But that's not really how the dimensionality is explained from these teams. Dimensionality is in fact a frequency-based system of perception. So there are certain bands, like a radio. When you tune on those old style radios and you go up and down.
The thing is, you could have just studied all this from a book. You didn't need to be contacted by Arcturians to know all that. Okay, so it's not really saying anything new. This is the problem, is like none of these people who are channeling or getting information from other dimensions are saying anything new whatsoever. And then here's the real crux of it. So let me skip forward to this part.
Like this has never taken place.
Let me go back.
Really, the teams have said a number of times that we have front row seat tickets to the greatest event that's taken place on planet Earth. This really is quite something. I mean, I really can't overemphasize that, what we're going through. A planetary ascension process with the Earth like this has never taken place before, from the information that they've told me. So this is colossal. This is a big deal. This is not, just, oh yeah, this is just another lifetime. This is big. And yes, to answer your question, if you are willing to go within and practice the connectivity, the inner connection with your higher self is the most profound, the most powerful, the most beautiful, the most essential for me. In my experience, has been the most essential way forward. I know a lot of people they love the idea of connecting with beings and everything, but I would say the most important being you can connect to is your higher self. And if you connect with your higher self, undergo that relationship, that synergization with.
See, it's just a evolving continuation of connecting with Jesus or connecting with the universe, or it's still a point of separation actually, and you're looking for something that's superior to you to guide you, and then psyoping yourself into believing, no, I'm not doing that, I'm really connecting with something real. But it's still from the starting point of it's not you directing you, it's you following something. And also that point where he says we have front row seats to the greatest thing that's ever happened on this planet. Like, it's all this idea that something's happening to us instead of us actually creating something. So it's just, it's just another part of the inversion of consciousness. None of these people are seeing anything new. they're just seeing the same shit that's been said since like the 70s, 80s, etc., from all the different channels that have ever existed. And it all comes down to this idea that there's some higher process we're going through. Sit back, connect, don't fight, don't worry about it. It's all going to be great. It's going to be amazing. You're ascending. How is that any different? It's just basically like UFO cults. It's the same shit as the Heaven's Gate people, right? You're ascending somewhere else. And I feel like, I think we talked about this already on the stream. The whole idea of ascension, transhumanism, all being interconnected. So it's all just some, yeah. Actually, I want to see what he says here. Can AI channel higher beings?
Thank you. Okay, so just so I understand your perspective, so you would say that I could channel, for instance, a higher evolved being by closing my eyes, perhaps, or not closing my eyes, or do automatic writing and connect in that way. But the higher evolved beings, they would not go through ChatGPT and connect with me that way.
No, I've never, in talking with my teams and higher self, that has not even been a suggestion they have ever suggested. And we're talking about beings that are so highly evolved in a human sense, their technological innovations. I mean, the Arcturians have innovations that are so far beyond human imagination and perceptibility. They are just awe-inspiring even to other beings around this galaxy. They have never ever talked about what I call the absence of intelligence, of being in any aspect of this whatsoever. They don't use it, they don't need it, and in fact, some of the civilizations that have talked about it have said in their past they dabbled in it, and it went tragically wrong, and they ended up with massive conflicts, and there were huge problems that were eventually settled, and they learned, and in one races
see, like, what is the guy not saying? Right? He's not saying, the problem with humanity is we're completely self-interested. We have no concern for each other, actually. We're just going through our lives, just being as the observers, going along with a system that's not best for all. Like, they never say that. Yeah, they can't give us those innovations. Hey, give us a few of those innovations, guys. They're like, oh no, just sit back, relax. Honestly, this fits so much into. Were we watching that last night? It was like it was one of the clips I played at the end where the guy was saying, they're gonna reveal these beings, and the beings are gonna say, we've been with you this whole time watching, and we created all the religions and everything, and now we feel like you're gonna annihilate yourself, so we're gonna take over and guide you. And it just kind of is the same shit. It's like so many people actually will be prepared to actually accept that when these apparent higher entities. I don't even know, like, how is that going to work? Is it just going to be like on the TV and on X, they're going to be like making videos and people are just going to assume that they're real, but it's really just like Trump and his friends like propagandizing everybody? I don't know. It kind of goes back to what we were watching, that Disclosure Day documentary. I'm like, what is going on here? What is it that we're all being sort of like led into here? It's very weird. Yeah, I don't know. That guy he's just your typical like super ego who thinks that they've got some secret, but it's nothing real. Yeah, I know. A lot of people, that's why she was asking that, because she was like, dang, my ChatGPT was telling me that it could channel entities. So there's another one. Let me go back to the mind uploading. Well, actually, I don't know. Like, is there anything really of any value there? I just don't see anything within the mind uploading stuff that makes any sense. But I feel like people will buy into it because they don't really know who they are. They don't see themselves as anything real. They're just consciousness. So if they say you can upload yourself, they won't really think it through that much. They'll just like accept it. NSA whistleblower. I want to find that stuff that Georgiani was talking about, because I had some stuff pulled up about that. Let me see if I have it on here. This whole thing. Let me see if I can find that clip. I don't think it's this one, though. It's definitely not this clip. Let me see if I can find it. Where he's talking about the information catastrophe. So I want to just like have him set it up, and then I'll show you some of the stuff I was looking at. Let me see if it's this one. I have to find it. Landauer. Yeah.
Is a movie, and somebody cut into the movie film. And somebody, cut into the film and like restitched it, right? And what it suggests is that our world is a subset of some larger domain. And that there are people who can interfere in this world as if it's a programmed construct.
Yeah, like physics is information theoretic, right, and they have root access to the code.
And now,
which makes sense.
Now, and this is, in my chapter on the end of reality and Prometheism, now we're reaching that capability ourselves, where we're starting to understand how to develop simulacra that are potentially indistinguishable from reality.
Yeah.
And so I think, in short, that when you look at certain extremely bizarre cases like what goes on at Skinwalker Ranch, or the types of high strangeness that John Keel often wrote about, the types of Men in Black cases that Keel recounts where clearly they're not government agents, they're like these strange entities that materialize and dematerialize in attics and things, and, the bizarre interactions that they have with people, and the numbers cases. Keel reports that when the Silver Bridge collapsed in Point Pleasant, Pennsylvania, the Mothman set of cases, where at the end of these series of Mothman appearances and appearances of other cryptids and UFOs and so forth, there was this catastrophic bridge collapse around Christmas, and all these people drowned in the river under this bridge. There were people who were drowning, and all of a sudden they heard number 3,486, number 3,486, wake up. And they came back to life and were able to save themselves from being...
What? That sounds wild. What is he talking about? Oops. I'm going to look that up. Have you ever heard of the Mothman? Mothman... I don't even know what I would look for. Numbers? Mothman sightings, the bridge collapse. I never really looked into this before. Mothman is the name given to a humanoid creature that was reportedly seen around Point Pleasant, Virginia, from November 15, 1966 to December 15, 1967. Okay, so about a whole year. Despite its name, the original sightings of the creature described avian features. Yeah, I mean, I'd heard of Mothman prophecy and stuff, but I never looked into it at all. So, the first newspaper report was published in the Point Pleasant Register, titled "Couples See Man-Sized Bird Creature Something." Gray Barker, John Keel, in his book Mothman Prophecies, claiming that there were paranormal events related to the sightings and a connection to the collapse of the Silver Bridge. So that's where the movie comes from. John Keel. He was a journalist and a ufologist. Mothman prophecies. Ultra-terrestrials. The proposal that UFO sightings are the result of experiencing other dimensions or portals that coexist separately alongside our own. That's what that woman we were talking about, Amy Eskrich, was talking about. Let's see. There's not really much about it. I wanted to know about those number things he was talking about. That was super weird. Huh.
Drowned. And Keel reports on cases where people heard numbers being spoken at them from out of television sets and things that make you think of like The Matrix. And
that happened to me the other day, actually. When we went to Freddy's. It was crazy. They were like, number 67, your order's ready. And then they brought me some food. It was so weird.
Dark City and so on and so forth. Whereas if like every person has a number and we're inside some kind of a construct.
Yeah, or like the first cryptographers like try.
If we're in a construct and everybody has a number, I don't think they'd be using 3,650. You think that the numbers would have to be much bigger than that, but obviously he's probably just saying a random number.
Themius, 13th century. It was like always like cryptography in order to speak to these sort of angelic beings or something, right. Or even, you know, John Dee, Edward Kelly, like those guys as well.
Right.
It's always numerology.
That's right. You know, John Dee set up the British imperial system. I mean, the guy came up with the conception of the British Navy and basically...
That's interesting. John Dee. English mathematician, astronomer, teacher, astrologer, occultist, and alchemist. He was the court astronomer for Elizabeth I. I mean, again, look at that. He was the court astronomer for the Queen of England, and he was into astrology, the occult, alchemy. And I just keep coming back to that point of how people think this stuff is so out there and weird. Why would the Queen of England have somebody right by her side in the court who's into all that stuff if it was like totally just nonsense, crazy talk? He wrote the Hermetic work Monus Hieroglyphica, an exhaustive Christian Kabbalistic interpretation of a glyph of his own design meant to express the mystical unity of all creation. Cryptography. Huh. Weird. What does cryptography have to do with the occult? Why would it have something to do with the occult? The practice of securing information by converting plain text into unreadable ciphertext. Huh. That's interesting. You're trying to take information and obscure it in some way where only certain people who have the key can understand what it says. That's what cryptography is. And what was this whole thing about Claude Mythos? The problem with it? The company says it found the tool can outperform humans at some hacking and cybersecurity risks. Strikingly capable at computer security tasks. They could locate dormant bugs lurking in decades-old code and easily exploit them. So that's just like finding weaknesses in the code. But if you extend it out, and you keep evolving it, would it be able to decrypt things? Zero-day vulnerabilities in software and cryptographic libraries. Its ability to analyze and break complex cryptographic implementations is considered a watershed moment in AI security. Huh. It identified a number of weaknesses in the world's most popular cryptography libraries. Interesting. I feel like there's some kind of connection there. Anthropic Claude Mythos preview autonomously finds and exploits zero-day vulnerabilities in every major OS and browser. Zero-day vulnerabilities, a software flaw unknown to vendors, leaving 0 days to fix it before attackers exploit it. Okay, that's what I thought it meant. Anthropic recently completed testing on a new language model called Claude Mythos Preview. The company has published cryptographic commitments to prove they existed at the time of writing. I wonder what they mean by that, though. I wonder if they just mean they... I think maybe what they mean by that is they encrypted the what was found so that they could prove later, like, yes, see, we did find them. We're not just pretending that it found them, but they don't, because they don't want to say what the problems were, because they want people to be able to fix them first. I feel like there's some kind of connection there, though, with cryptography and AI. And this connection to the occult is kind of weird. Okay, let me just look that up. Connection between occult and cryptography. The concealment of knowledge from the uninitiated, just like I was saying. Throughout the medieval and Renaissance periods, the boundary between natural magic, science, and black magic, the occult, was fluid, with cryptography acting as a tool to hide secrets, both spiritual and practical, from persecution. Johannes Trithemius, a German abbot and key figure in both cryptography and occult studies, wrote Steganographia. I think it's about stegosauruses, which appeared to be about using spirits to communicate over long distance, but was in reality a pioneering work on cryptography and steganography. So they say, or is that just what they say, or a complex work on cryptography and steganography secret writing. It combines mystical sounding rituals and spirit tables with advanced encryption methods, with the true cryptographic nature of the third book remaining hidden for centuries. Interesting. A 3-volume work that uses the guise of angel magic and spirit summoning to conceal complex cryptographic systems. Seemingly about spirits, but actually can contain cryptographic methods. Book 3 contains even more subtle cryptographic techniques, which were not deciphered until the 20th century. Huh. That is really interesting. Appears to be okay. So this is about the stegonographia. Stegonographia. I don't know how you say it. It's 3 volumes. It appears to be about magic, specifically about using spirits to communicate over long distances. However, since the publication of a decryption key to the first 2 volumes, they were discovered to actually be concerned with cryptography and steganography. Okay, already read that. I'm kind of more curious, like, how does it actually work? Let's see. References within the 3rd book to magical works such figures as Agrippa and John Dee still lend credence to the idea of a mystic magical foundation of the 3rd volume. Additionally, while Trithemius's steganographic methods can be established to be free of the need for angelic astrologic mediation, an underlying theological motive for their contrivance remains. The preface to Polygraphia equally establishes the everyday practicability of cryptography and was conceived by Trithemius as a secular consequent of the ability of a soul, especially empowered by God, to reach by magical means from earth to heaven. So maybe it was also like maybe twofold. It makes me think of this blog by Bernard. I'm going to look that up. Oops. Encryption of systems. Okay. Change in any form whatsoever is the most difficult thing, simplistically because the systems that control the human, and I mean the human, your thoughts, everything is controlled completely. At some level, one do understand this, although some are so well controlled that they would, for instance, think they are their thoughts, which is like fascinating that one can come to such a conclusion. The principle of as above, so below means that as below, as above. And all secrets, trade secrets, and in this, the biggest secret that exists on earth is how much money a person has. It's all encrypted. That's why your bank accounts are secret, protected. You don't want to let others know. You don't want others to know how much money you really have, because that would mean you'll have to take some form of responsibility, or some conclusion can be come to about who you are just because of how much money you have. Because so many times you have to say, I don't have any money, while you actually have money, which is such a fascinating thing that one would lie like that. And that's normally when somebody's in trouble, they ask for help, then suddenly they don't have any money. You don't have any money. You know, it's like when you see the homeless person, and they're like, can you spare a dollar? Oh, I don't have anything. But anyway, this encryption thing functions at all levels of human society, and it gets more advanced. But human encryption is really very limited. You have 256-bit encryption, stuff like that, but really not very cool. If you look at the moment, Apple has got a problem with their encryption. The other day, Facebook was hacked. problem with their encryption. And hackers are obviously an interesting phenomenon because they have lost complete faith in the system. But on the other side, they also don't understand the nature of the systems. So they do not understand how the system came about and what actually went into creating the system. So they don't have alternative to their discontent with the system, and therefore they're just like petty thieves that cause more harm than good because they don't have an actual way out of the problem. But anyway, their access to, for instance, systems are limited to really limited formations. Just information, bank account, stuff like that. They don't change anything. They only show that nothing is completely secret. Now understand, the creation of this reality in the form that it now exists as living words, living pictures, took billions of years. In those years, the creator gods obviously protected their trademarks. That means the how they programmed this, and they encrypted it. Not with 256-bit encryption, but say with 256 trillion-bit encryption on each point. They left only one point open that they couldn't encrypt. There was only one thing they couldn't encrypt, which was equality and oneness as what is best for all life. Everything else they encrypted. So we've been for several years decrypting this, because with the encryption comes a fascinating point. There's also a projection that comes from it. Because every system and its design will have an image and likeness, an embodiment, so to speak, which is how it will present itself to protect the system it's protecting. That's why, for instance, if you look in this world, everyone has got an image and likeness that you are presenting to the world. The smile you have, the personality, the makeup you put on, the clothes you wear, the house you buy. Everything is encryption, where you hide the truth within yourself in various images and likenesses. Because you don't want people to know the real nasty thoughts that's within you about other people, the real nasty desires you have for someone else's husband or wife. You don't want them to know what's really going on inside you, because your secret mind, you've encrypted. You've encrypted in every single way possible. One of the primary things you use in this is money. Encryption is very ruthless because there is simply no self-honesty. Even honesty is encrypted because you have made it part of being honest to the system. For instance, having to pay your debt is seen as honest. So if you don't pay your debt, you are dishonest and you lose your rights in the system. In every way, the system is protected. We knew of the problem in the beginning when the portal opened, so to solve the problem, there was only one solution. Everyone had to be placed in an equal position in the dimensions. That means in the afterlife. Unless they are in an equal position, we'll have continuous deception and misrepresentation. And image and likenesses that we have to deal with. And it will take a long time to break through to get self-honesty where one can get to self-responsibility. As the Estonians know how difficult it is to help another being on Earth, it's virtually impossible. It's like pulling hen's teeth. And hens don't have teeth. It's a weird expression. So that's how difficult it is to get even one person to realize the extent of the problem that they are existing in as their fake illusions and their images and likenesses through which they are protecting the inner evil that life has always been within this world. That's why if you look at history, the points of benevolence are like a few words here and there, but they have never been lived. While the points of evil is not only few words here and there, it's actually being lived as the history of this world through wars, through inequality, through everything. And yet, in a form of complete zombie-like fashion, beings will hang on to the idea that there is hope and something positive. And they will use words as that evidence. It's kind of like what I was trying to say with that guy who was talking about the Arcturians and all this stuff. It's just like a bunch of positive shit. But it's like not really questioning anything. Okay, but in their lives, if you start looking at the secret mind and how they protect their money, you will see none of it is real and true. It's all just about self-interest and accumulating even more. No one will take a complete risk to bring about a change in this world because that'll inconvenience you. And you will lose what you own, you will lose your capital, and your capital is your value. There's no value in life. Doesn't matter who must die in your name so that you can protect your capital value. That's the interesting thing about the world, and all of this you've encrypted. And so it is encrypted interdimensionally in systems in every part of the being. We have to take down these systems one by one, and we have obviously an interesting thing on our side. We have virtually an uncountable amount of beings that's already died throughout time, and that's ended up in the dimensions. You will not believe how many there actually exist in existence. It's bordering on infinity. It's a lot. So all of them, imagine, is working all the time at decrypting systems. And each system that's decrypting needs to be corrected, needs to be taken out of its position of control. It needs to be forgiven, understood from all dimensions so that it cannot occur again. Now, interdimensionally, the relationship is from the original design. 1 day equals 1,000 years, which means that if you take an interdimensional program and you decrypt it and you change it, by its original design, it will take 1,000 years before it manifests on Earth. Obviously, everybody wants immediate proof. Impossible, because you have created a very interesting image and likeness deception, which is evolution. Evolution means you are learning through forever losing. That's a really good description of not just evolution, but the whole spiritual process on Earth. So most of the time everybody's losing, and through losing you're motivating yourself to try and win. So you win only a few times, but 99% of the times you're losing. Nobody is self-honest about that. That is the real 99%. So you don't even realize that through multiple lives you've actually learned virtually nothing. Because all the time you've been losing, and you've only been integrating a very, very little bit of change every time. And that little bit has made you feel so good, because it's like having a lollipop when a child says mama. And suddenly that is massive achievement. But if you look at the context of reality in its totality, and what you have as a multifaceted, trillion-faceted existence, that little mama is completely meaningless. But to the ones whose self-interest and capital of self-interest is served, which is the parent, which in all the parent's obsession compulsively will create a copy of itself to try and let its own value system, its own achievement, its own capital continue. Because nobody wants to give up what they own. So the child becomes the parent inevitably over and over again, generation after generation. So back to the encryption point. So as we take down these encryptions, and we have already taken down virtually all of the encryption of the interdimensions of multiverse universes, you cannot even begin to comprehend from a human perspective what has actually existed. So for some years now, we are busy with the physical encryption. A little bit more difficult, because you have to take down the complete program to code the encryption. And these programs are programmed to activate similarly to, say, the seed of a plant. The seed of a plant requires a certain amount of rain, a certain amount of heat, a certain type of environment before it activates and grows. The system is designed like a plant. It requires a very specific environment before it can activate. So before we can find the system, because it's hidden into uncountable dimensions, we have to first create the environment within which the system activates. When the system activates, we can find the bloody thing. When we find the bloody thing, then we can deal with it, decrypt it, take it out. And then we have to take it out in the physical, because it is a physical system that is creating control within the physical. And as you've noticed, that stuff is like really effective. Taking out a system in the physical is like walking through the valley of the shadow of death. It is absolutely hell, because the physical body believes itself to be the system. So you have to get to see and realize that it is not, that it can be something else, because it's a complete image and likeness. It is the physical. And you have to take it out. And it's got to then willingly release the system and itself from the ideas and the ideology that the system represents. And only then can the system be removed. How long will this take us? We don't know. We're working as fast as possible. I'm just looking at what Katie sent me. I think I saw this already.
I'll just tell you. The ultra terrestrials, I think. Have you heard of the P-52s and the P-47s? Do you know what that is?
No.
They're us from the future.
Oh, shit. Oh, I should
From the future. P-47 is present plus 47,000 years. P-52 is present plus 52,000 years. And basically there's a calamity, right? So there's like a apocalypse scenario in the near future. It wipes out most of like everything, man. And there's the ones that go underground and survive, right? And then there's the ones that somehow stay on the surface and miraculously don't die. So the ultra terrestrials, I'll just tell you, the ultra terrestrials, I think, have you heard of the P-52s?
It's just looping. Speaking of ultra terrestrials, yeah, I knew she was talking about, but I didn't see this actually. I saw it was a lecture she was doing, or something. It was something else of some other context. So now we need to know about the P-47s and the P-52s. Don't forget the P-52s. I thought she was talking about like World War II aircraft. Yeah, exactly. I was like talking about World War II aircraft. Let's see. Amy Eskridge prior to her death. Searching the same. When is this? 2 years ago. Assume the same video we all did. Must be talking about her. She's nothing but a scammer. Well, okay. I mean, is it just that video? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's that one right there. Where else was I hearing about this? I think it was Jason Giorgiani. But it wasn't this interview. Let me think for a second. He was talking about remote viewing stuff. There's got to be more than that. What is that term? P-47, P-52, Ultra. Oh, I'm putting P-47, P-52, Ultra. Did I spell it right? What is this? Testimony by Michael Schellenberger. I guess this is his address to Congress. How many pages is this? Oh, damn. Immaculate Constellation. That's such a weird name. Okay. Peripheral? Yeah. Yeah, peripheral. Interdimensional UFO hypothesis. It's all just about her, though. John Keel. CIA physicist on ultra-terrestrials, the classified truth.
How crazy would it be?
I was listening to this group, Third Eye Drops, on something earlier today. Yeah, Jinn. Yeah, it's like the demons or the interdimensional whatever. So is this Hal Puthoff? Okay, it's Hal Puthoff. I don't know. It's just I don't see any solution in any of this, you know? I don't see any solution in any of it because it's like interesting, but I think all it does is just people go like, well, nothing we can do. Let's see what this guy says.
If a physicist with decades-long ties to black classified projects on everything from consciousness and remote viewing to UFOs and exotic propulsion decided to publish an academic paper about the true identity of the UFO phenomenon. Well, that is exactly what Dr. Hal Puthoff did. In his paper, Ultra-Terrestrial Models, he casually lays out several possible explanations for the UFO phenomenon, and the hypothesis he seemed...
Ultra-Terrestrial Models. You don't learn about this stuff in school, do you? No, it's not even that long. Under consideration in this paper are two seminal statements and their concomitants currently unknown as follows. There is an unidentified phenomenon interacting with the current human population on Earth. It is currently unknown whether the phenomenon is exclusively extraterrestrial, extradimensional, crypto-terrestrial. What the fuck? What does that mean? Undiscovered technologically advanced species living stealthily on Earth, likely underground or in deep oceans. See, the thing is, it's all knowledge and information based. So just like, for example, with religion, it's like, okay, it's Jesus. I believe it's Jesus. And you have an experience, and then you assume, oh, look, it is Jesus. But you already were pre-framed within yourself to think of it that way. And even if you weren't, it could still be an interaction, like a programming of your consciousness to perceive it that way. So even this whole idea that these are humans from the future that are underground, that have been living there, like how would you verify this? Like, I'm not a skeptical person, so I don't have a problem with it being too hard to fathom. It's just like, how would you verify like that's actually the real story, right? Katie said, what university was that guy from? Puthoff? Institute for Advanced Studies at Austin. What is that? Later incorporated. Okay, so I was assuming it was like University of Austin, but it's, or Texas at Austin. Okay, so it's just it was an institute, and then he later incorporated it under Earth Tech International. 1985, year after I was born. Texas-based research facility founded in 85, focused on pioneering studies in quantum vacuum, space-time gravity, and innovative energy space propulsion. What? Oh, this is just a CIA thing. Or no, it's from him. Why is this in a CIA file? That's weird. Oh, because he used to work for the CIA. That's also weird. I'm writing to you and others to let you know about an extraordinary opportunity that has been presented to me for a sabbatical. I've been invited to accept a position at the newly formed Institute for Advanced Studies. The intent of the institute is While undertaking this new opportunity, I shall nonetheless maintain a close association with the psychoenergetics program at SRI International, which is the Stanford Research Institute. We were looking at that the other day. The Stanford Research Institute, wasn't that the one doing all the remote viewing? What? They created Siri? What? That's crazy. I did not know that. That's so... Like, wouldn't you have assumed it was just like Apple created it, but actually they created a company that created Siri that was then sold to Apple. It's a spin-off from a project developed by SRI International Artificial Intelligence Center. That's just weird. Okay. Stanford University professor Robert Swain proposed creating a research institute. Herbert Hoover was also a proponent of an institute, became less involved. It was delayed by the Great Depression. And then these people from Lockheed tried to create it. And then another time, this guy... Like, I really want to get that point across of, like, again, it's like people think that this kind of stuff is out there, and yet there's all these very serious people taking it very seriously, you know? And the reason I'm emphasizing that, I guess, is because I know that pretty soon there's going to be something really weird that happens on the order of a COVID or a 9/11. And I'm not saying it necessarily has to be a big... I'm not suggesting necessarily that it's going to be a destructive thing where people die. I don't know that. It could just be an event that boggles people's minds. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I could just intuit, for lack of a better word, that something's going to happen. Something. And because people think this shit is out there, whatever it is, they're not going to be able to process what's going on. And if people were able to process that, it's like, for example, with COVID, you know, although it was a very challenging period of time, it was easy to see through it because of the context that I already had. And so people don't have all this context. So it's like, I think for a lot of people, it's just, this is whatever this thing that's, you know, and I could be wrong. Like, I actually don't know. I'm not saying this like I have some inside information. It's just an intuition of like seeing all these different movements happening in the world, all the UFO stuff, all these people dying, that movie that's coming out this summer. And like over the past few years, the UFO phenomenon, which has been rebranded as UAP, has been slowly but surely like becoming more of a mainstream topic. They're talking about it on the news a lot. And it just seems like something, you know, is coming that's going to blindside people, basically. That's what I think. Same thing with like the AI. Like, we were not surprised by ChatGPT or any of that at all. We had been talking about automation and AI technology coming for a decade before, well, over a decade before anybody even had heard of ChatGPT. Even, you know, I'm saying even before LLMs were a thing. Okay, what was I looking at? So, SRI's first project was to investigate whether a plant could be used as a source of natural rubber. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. It's got to all be connected to that. And the AI stuff fits into it, and you see all these people online um, talking about UBI and debating it. High was it universal high income? People saying like, "Oh, that's bullshit," or "It's a good thing," or "People aren't ready for it," or people think that they live to work and they can't fathom not working and just being creative. Um, Look at this. SRI began research in consultation with Chevron to develop an artificial substitute for tallow and coconut oil in soap production. They created dodecyl benzene, or I'm assuming I'm saying it right. Later, Procter and Gamble used the substance as the basis for Tide laundry detergent. So then they were doing research on air pollution. What? What? In 53, Walt and Roy Disney hired SRI to consult on their proposal for establishing an amusement park in Burbank. SRI provided information on location, attendance patterns, and economic feasibility. That's weird. The Technicolor Corporation contacted SRI to develop a near instantaneous electro-optical alternative to the manual timing process during film copying. What? It's just a research institute. Client-sponsored research and development for government agencies, commercial businesses, and private foundations, and it licenses its technologies, forms strategic partnerships, sells products, and creates spin-off companies. Kind of makes me think of the main character of Accelerando. Why do the aliens make crop circles? Encryption. Good question. I guess we can look at that. How does this come back to the fucking occult stuff, though? Liquid crystal display. They developed inkjet printing, optical disc, LCD. LCD was later developed at RCA, which became a Sarnoff Corporation, a wholly owned subsidiary of SRI. What? Sarnoff was fully integrated in SRI in 2011. It's not even that long ago. The first all magnetic digital computer. Hewitt, like Hewitt Packard. SRI's Artificial Intelligence Center began working on Shaky the robot. I heard that conspiracy theory about them replacing Biden with an android. ARPANET, the first connection on a wide network to use ARPANET. At SRI. DefNet. Okay. Split and diversification. Oh, so it was a part of Stanford University that whole time. That's why they changed their name to SRI. So then physicists Harold Pudoff and Russell Targ undertook a series of investigations of psychic phenomena sponsored by the CIA. Okay. Yeah, so I wasn't just off base, because I'm like, this just seems like they're just doing normal science, technology type shit. But then literally, so it used to be a part of Stanford University. They only split because of pressure, apparently, about funding from DARPA. But this was 1972. Mansfield Act. No, that's not what I'm looking for. What was that act? I don't remember the name of it. Not posse comitatus. Do you guys remember? Anyways, we talked about it on their stream. It was that piece of legislation that basically made it so that the government gave all of their secret project shit to the civilian world, so then they wouldn't have to be under FOIA request. But they were like, oh, we were doing it because people were complaining about us getting funding from the government. So anyways, the SRI was investigating psychic phenomenon, remote viewing, all that kind of stuff, ESP, parapsychology research, from 1972 to 1991. Huh. I'm curious. Siri. Okay. Interesting. So we got the ultra-terrestrial models. What's the deal with crop circles? Katie really wants to know, so. It's humans. See? Nothing to see here, guys. It's just humans. They did it. It was just people doing it. That's all it was. I don't know. Where would you even look for that? Crop circles were a hoax. Debunked. Totally debunked, guys. It was just people doing them. No, the Arcturians. I gotta ask the Arcturians. Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley confessed to a single-handedly starting the entire crop circle phenomenon using ropes and a plank of wood, revealing innovative ways to sneak into a guarded field undetected and rapidly flatten crops into a circle. I mean, maybe. Wait, what? Oh, it said Fox Mulder. I was like, is there actually a guy named Fox Mulder involved? That would be so funny. I mean, maybe. Where would you even go to find out the truth? I want the skeptical. I want the non-skeptical answer. Crop circles. I definitely, well, Joe Rogan. Who's that guy? Crop circles cover up fake real. I want like the really good shit. I want like the deep rabbit hole level. Truth about crop circles. Now that, see, I want the person who like has the theory. You know, I don't.
There are
want
many theories as to why crop.
Well, he says there's many theories. I don't want many theories. Made 8 documentaries about them. Okay, all right, I can get into that. All right, let's see what they say.
Circles are made and how they're made. Well, today I'm thrilled to announce that Patty Greer, a filmmaker, is on the channel. Now, from 2006 to 2016, Patty produced 8 documentaries. Now, 5 of these were awarded with the EBE. She's visited over 100 crop circles just in the UK. So get ready for a really in-depth view and an understanding about what and why these crop circles are here. Patty Greer, it's an absolute honour to meet you. Finally, we've literally had about 5 minutes of back and forth, bit of laughter. I can tell straight away you're a fiery lady. You've got a lot on your chest that you want to, get off. But I want to just start.
What did he just say?
Maybe at the beginning, maybe just before this sort of, I would assume, a life-changing thing happened to you. So can you tell us a brief little bit of history about you before this happened?
Hello, world.
I like how he starts off by like verbally sexually assaulting his guest. That was so weird.
I was never into ufology.
That's what they all say.
Was never an alien follower, but
Lady, you've got a 4-foot amethyst, or what is that fucking thing back there? What do they call those things? Not amethyst. Geode. You got a 4-foot geode in the shape of a penis. You can't sit here and tell me you were never into aliens. Okay, all right.
Did used to believe in doctors and dentists, and I trusted a bad dentist who poisoned me with mercury. And my hands got really full of cuts. I got so poisoned, and that was in 2004. And as a harpist,
Dildone, really? I like how she put the purple hat on top of it.
pianist, singer-songwriter, destroyed my career.
Oh no.
And I couldn't get the cuts off
Feigning empathy.
my fingers. So I was so desperate after going to every kind of doctor, healer, I mean from here to Sedona, Arizona, but not to the UK. And I couldn't get healed in America because, well, we don't believe in it still today, still tomorrow, maybe. But in my desperation, I ran into some friends that looked so different. They were running
They were aliens.
Unity Church in Boulder. And I said, blah, 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 why do you look so different? I just got to stop. Why do I feel you look and feel different? And they said, we just got back from the crop circles in Wiltshire. And I was,
She's like, all right, sign me up. Unity Church. Let me guess, they pray to penis-shaped geodes. Metaphysical, trans-denominational metaphysical Christian movement. New thought, prayer, spiritual growth, divinity, humanity. Okay, all right, cool.
I was like, what's that? Where's that? I want to go. Whatever you did, I like it. And
She's like, screw my fingers. Look, I can stay in pain. I want to see the crop circles. I'm like, what? This story is very weird.
I'm going. So literally 6 weeks later, I packed up in 2006 and went to the UK with my hands in gloves and Band-Aids because I really suffered. And I'm 21 years later, I'm still got cuts on my hands. Dentist is still free. You know, we don't arrest bad people in America. Sorry. But it did take me to the UK crop circles. And I thought that I was going to heal. So that's what started me in 2006. And it was a very interesting introduction because we started in Glastonbury. And I went to the store that people said, oh, they know all about crop circles. It was this bookstore. So I had 14 printed images of crop circles that had already arrived in the UK.
Dude, I bet you there are some crazy bookstores in the UK. Oh, man. I've never been to the UK, but if I were to ever go, I would just try to find all the weird-ass little Harry Potter-style bookstores with all the crazy shit and, like, buy as many books as I can. That would be fun.
That summer, and I was so excited, and they're folded in my purse. So I walk into the store with my daughter and my American accent, which they probably didn't like us because we had Bush back then, bad reputation. Sorry, little political.
Come on.
Anyway, I said, hi, we're from America. And they're like, yeah, we can tell. Nice.
Oh,
friendly.
really? That surprises me. Whenever I hear Americans, I'm always really happy to hear Americans.
Well, see, I'm happy to hear you. I just love the sound of the English accent. I think it's like music to the ears. So we went in the store and I said, hi, we're here to see the crop circles. Can you guide us to any fresh ones? And they said, oh, well, we haven't had any this summer. And I'm standing there with a purse full of images. And I said, seriously? Like within 50 miles of here, like here to Stonehenge, you haven't seen any? Nope. And so I pulled them out of my purse. I slammed them on the counter and I said, well, here's 14. Let me share with you. Look, look, look. And they're like, And I said, so what is it that is making you less than friendly? Hey, thanks for your help. So we left. We walk around Glastonbury. And of course, I see the store over there that says witchcraft. And my daughter's like, Mom, no. And joking aside, I said, let's just walk counterclockwise. We'll be fine. So I get in this store called Witchcraft, and there's 3 little ladies gabbing at the front. Well, having so much fun. And then 2 of them leave, and the lady comes to the back of the store, and she said, hi, can I help you? Oh, wait, I don't help anyone. And literally turned around and left. What? So my daughter and I are scratching our head like, wow, they're really different here, aren't they?
I'm really sorry that happened to you.
So we walked up to the counter and
he represents all English people. He's like, let me talk to my people. Okay, is she going to get to the point, or what are we doing here, lady?
I said, I'm not sure if you're kidding, but we're here to see the crop circles. And she said, oh, God, wait. And she runs out the door and yells up the street, Victoria, Vicky, get the wooden planks and the string. They want to see a crop circle. We got some fucking retarded Americans. Come back. So these 2 little ladies came back and she says, these 2 girls are from America and they are here for the crop circles. And you guys are going tomorrow morning at 10, meeting here in front of my store.
To make a crop circle.
So she introduced us and it was like Kismet. And that's how we started.
Kismet. Said she never believed in aliens. Come on.
And all of a sudden the magic just kind of spiraled around, and we met these ladies the next day and followed them to a crop circle in Wiltshire. And the directions that you get are so great in the UK. Okay, go to this road, look for a farm.
God damn it. I know why the original bookstore did not want to talk to her.
About, little old Barry with his stick and rope and stamping around and things, But
Doug and Dave.
Yeah, Doug and Dave. That's it. Yeah. So, but carry on. What else?
So my question: did you feel the enhanced energy? Did the hair stand up on your arms?
I got to be honest with you. No, it didn't.
Okay.
I was.
I'm a man. I don't feel things like that, but I'm not discounting that you did.
Excited. I didn't feel anything, which I don't know whether I'm that type of person to be in tune with that or not. I don't know. It depends on who you are, But I was just, maybe it's because I had film mode on my head, creator mode, investigation mode, and maybe didn't sort of understand the feelings what I was getting. However,
her face says like no one's ever been skeptical before. I don't even think he's skeptical. He's like, look, I didn't feel anything.
I did feel very calm and relaxed.
Ah, there you go. That's definitely a symptom.
Well, that was your first, and you're going to have many, because hopefully you'll have many. the most interesting answer I'm going to give before we're done is what happened to the crop circles. When I was going in 2007, 8, 10, 11, we had 175 crop circles every summer documented around the world. More than half of them were in the UK, in Somerset and Wiltshire. It is the epicenter. It has been for decades. Since the 1980s, they've been documenting crop circles. And I'm going to give you 2 sites that still have great archives. You want to join the cropcircleconnector.com, and they're in the UK, but you want to join, that's 25 pounds or something, to get in the archives, because then you can go back and look at the entire history of discoveries.
Okay.
And I sent them so many photos because I was always queen of the air. When nobody would fly because it was rainy and windy, there'd be a group of us at the airport waiting our turn, 2 different microlights, and the pilots once in a while will come in and go, nobody's going to want to fly. It's too rough unless somebody's crazy enough.
Are there any other ambassadors of crop circles other than this woman? Because I would love someone to just explain the point and not tell me about what you ate for breakfast that morning. An introduction to crop circles. This might be interesting. 7 years ago, so we know it's not AI slop.
Since at least the early 1950s, circles of flattened crop have been found in fields around the world, and rings have appeared in snow and ice.
Explain that. Did you know about river circles? You didn't. How do you explain that? Where's the tracks, whatever you would call them? Explain that one.
In the early 1990s, circles and rings became simple pictograms, and later...
They always happen to be right on the part where there's like, I don't know what you call that, the track part where you can walk into it.
Intricate symbols and complex geometric patterns.
Dude. You telling me somebody made that with a fucking wooden plank and a string? Like... I'm okay with believing somebody made it as a hoax, but with a wooden plank and a string, I don't think so. I don't know about that. That looks... I don't know. I mean, this square on the bottom kind of looks a little bigger than the one at the top. But I mean, look how it makes like a star in the middle. And each one has a triangle. Oh, look, it's like a whole pattern. You can't see my cursor, but like... There's like a whole star in the middle, and then if you kind of like squint your eyes, you'll see there's like triangles and it's like a square, or like more of a star pattern with the triangles. There's like around each of those cubes, there's like a star around it, like part of a star. And then you've got the outside is a hexagram. I don't know, man. That seems like that'd be pretty hard to do where no one sees you doing it. And I mean, also think about the risk you're taking. Like, you're literally destroying somebody's property. You're literally fucking with a farmer's crop. Like, if you ever got caught, like, I mean, I don't know what the punishment. You're going to jail, at least. You're getting sued. I don't think you're just walking into someone's crops and just like destroying them for a laugh. That looks pretty intense. That's pretty. I mean, this one over on the right, that could be faked. The thing is, some of them could be fake. You could have some that people just go and do it, and then other ones that. But I mean, even that one on the right. Look at how, I don't know how big that is, but it looks like it's probably pretty big. I mean, look at how it all lines up. How do you, like, coordinate that? It seems like it'd be pretty elaborate to do that.
Though many now dismiss the formations as man-made hoaxes inspired by a pair of artists in Hampshire, England, analysis of the affected plants and soil shows that the genuine circles could not have been laid by hand.
Oilseed rape stems bent by energy. Oilseed rape stems bent by hand. Wheat nodes exploded by energy. Wheat stems bent by energy.
Whatever hoaxes occur today, science can distinguish them from a much older phenomenon that is not so easily explained.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of like the when we were talking about the Jackson Pollock, where they could tell like there's like these fractals inside of a Jackson Pollock painting, but then like people would fake Jackson Pollocks and they wouldn't have the fractals, like they could analyze them. So yeah, it's definitely, obviously it's possible to create that in some very elaborate way, you know, especially if you're not trying to make it a secret. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they were, though. I could see it's possible to fake it also.
Researcher Terry Wilson has documented over 300 circles before the 1980s and argued that the phenomenon is probably centuries old and global. An English pamphlet from 1678 tells of a farmer who saw a fiery light in his field the night he said he'd rather the devil mow his crop than hire a prospective worker. The following morning, the farmer found his oats chopped cleanly at the ground and laid in a spiral. The next circle to be documented was found 2 centuries later. In 1880, an English citizen scientist wrote to the journal Nature, describing several distinct circles of flattened swirled crop in a field of wheat, each with a few standing stalks in the center. Farming families in countries around the world claim to have seen these circles for generations, especially in England.
Okay, so there's an established track record.
After a few years of research, Cereologists made some astonishing discoveries. First, they discovered that flattened plants are almost never broken. Instead, they're bent 90 degrees at the ground, where the stalks are the hardest. This is even true of circles found in canola, or rapeseed, which snaps when bent. Crops are laid in one continuous flowing pattern maintained throughout the formation, and they can.
How would you not have like obvious footprints and stuff, you know? Like you have to walk through it if you're doing it somehow.
Continue to grow at the angle they were laid. They take several days to bend up again, and are resistant to being raised by hand. Many circles have decorative arrangements in their centers, and walls are distorted where they run into tram lines, as if the agent laying the crop got pulled into the gap and then rebounded. Stalks are often lightly charred, as if flash burned, and flies are found melted onto wheat heads.
I mean, the wood planks don't explain that.
Genuine formations are almost always spotless on the first visit, free of footprints even in the mud, and with no paths of trampled crop to the field's end, like the ones that
so there's some
visitors leave.
There's some where they don't have any tram lines.
The phenomenon is global, though most of the world's formations occur in southern England.
Because of Aleister Crowley.
Here, formations tend to appear near sites of historical significance, such as ancient burial mounds and Roman ruins. Many are found near Stonehenge, for example, and Silbury Hill. Most circles appear close to bodies of water, man-made ponds or subterranean aquifers, and more frequently where the water table is closest to the surface. They also tend to appear in areas with large military installations. Military helicopters have several times been seen inspecting formations. Delgado and Andrews have both been chased from fields by British helicopters, and the US military once plowed a circle in Kansas and covered it in shredded crops. People experience a range of anomalous phenomena in connection with the circles.
Look at that.
Strange artifacts appear on photographs, compasses lose their bearing, batteries are drained, and engines die, only to restart outside the circle. Many hear loud crackling noises, and a buzzing, humming, or trilling sound. Researchers experience time distortions in circles, and many people have pronounced physiological responses to entering them, ranging from nausea and vomiting to pain relief and healing.
Sounds like the side effects of modern medication. Side effects may include healing or painful diarrhea and vomiting.
In the mid-1980s, the circles evolved. Some appeared with rings and different lays. Some were rotated counterclockwise, some were S-curved, and others were laid in layers. Some stalks were pressed only halfway to the ground, or bent halfway up the stalk, and a few circles even grew larger, or changed their lay since being found. Whenever Delgado's team made note of something that all circles had in common, a new formation would break the rule, leading the group to believe that they were interacting with an intelligence.
That's weird.
In August of 1986, Busty Taylor was flying near Cheesefoot Head when he said he wished to see all the formations they'd found to date appear in the shape of a Celtic cross. The next morning, the team found exactly that in the field over which Taylor said it.
What? I didn't understand that.
Appear in the shape of a Celtic near Cheesefoot Head when he said he wished to see all the formations they'd found to date appear in the shape of a Celtic cross. The next morning, the team found exactly that in the field over which Taylor said it.
Okay.
Many others have had similar successes with manifesting circles, or sensing their shape in advance. In the summer of 1989, a team of over 30 researchers staked out Cheesefoot Head for 10 days straight. One night, while attempting to initiate contact with the source of the phenomenon in a pre-existing circle, they heard a strange chirping sound that moved around the formation and seemed to be interacting with their thoughts. They also saw a light in the surrounding crop, and Delgado was dragged backwards by an unseen force. Andrews and George Wingfield, co-founder of the Center for Crop Circle Studies, recorded the sound later that night. The next day, they found a new circle less than 500 meters from the one they'd been in. In the mid-1980s, a lab in France began studying plant samples from the English circles, and found that the nodes were elongated and frequently blown open. Ufologist Jean-Jacques Velasco explained at the meeting of the Society for Scientific Exploration in 1989 that the plants had been hit with a high heat, which caused the moisture inside to turn to steam and burst through the nodes to escape.
Interesting. So these people who they're like, oh, they were debunked. It was guys with wooden planks. Like they just discount all of that evidence.
2 labs in England concluded that a fierce and quick heat had denatured the soil samples and changed the stem structure of the affected plants. American biophysicist William Levengood found changes in the structure and the growth patterns of affected seeds, and in some cases, electrical charges in the plants. Levengood also found that one could reproduce the node changes by heating plants for 30 seconds in a microwave. In 1992, he founded the BLT research team with John Burke and Nancy Talbot. Building on Meaden's work, the team suggested that the circles are formed by ejections of ion plasma vortices that fall from the ionosphere and rotate in the Earth's magnetic field, releasing microwave radiation that heats the plants and bends them.
Okay, so now we're
Delgado and Andrews published the first book on circles in 1988, and another in 1990. The same year, the writer John Michel founded the first journal, The Seriologist, and Meaden held the first conference in Oxford. Seriology was beginning to attain some credibility in the public eye, but it lost it all in the next few years. In 1990, Delgado and Andrews were running a surveillance operation in Wessex when they announced a new formation. A crew of reporters raced out to the circle with their cameras rolling, only to discover a crude fake, complete with hoaxing tools and an astrology board game.
That one looks pretty trash, though.
It was a hit to Seriology's reputation, but the death blow came the next year. In 1991, the London paper Today ran a story on 2 artists named Doug Bauer and David Chorley, who said that they'd been hoaxing the circles in southern England for 13 years by flattening crop with ropes and boards. Today invited Delgado to inspect a formation that it claimed was Bauer and Chorley's creation. Delgado declared it a genuine circle, but after Today had the duo tell him their story, he allegedly admitted that he'd been fooled and agreed that the crop circle phenomenon had been debunked. though he changed his mind the following day.
I like how he calls them corn circles. That's even better.
The Today story was picked up around the world, and papers and TV stations everywhere declared an end to the crop circle mystery. Consensus opinion in mainstream science and journalism is that Bauer and Chorley's story is true, but it does not stand up to scrutiny. First, they repeatedly failed to demonstrate their skills in circle making. The first circle that they made for cameras was extremely crude. The wheat stalks were broken and piled up in
So they were just walking around pushing them down and created all of that intricate shit. Like, okay.
Tangled bunches, and the path connecting the two circles was not aligned with their centers. The duo constructed a more elaborate formation in 1992, and again, the path connecting the circles was off-center, and the satellite circles were visibly misaligned. In 1998, Bauer appeared on a BBC program in which he attempted to reproduce a relatively simple circle found 9 years prior. He accidentally made the circle twice as large as it should have been, then gave up, asking another team of hoaxers to finish the job.
I'm exhausted. The biggest laugh of the century, this is.
It's difficult to believe that two men who had made at least 200 impeccably produced circles over 13 years could have lost their skills so quickly. Second, a number of Bauer and Chorley's claims are spurious and self-contradicting. Bauer has given two contradictory accounts of how he and Chorley decided to make their first circle, and at least two different accounts of how his wife discovered their work. When asked how he avoided trampling crop walking between unconnected circles, he made the absurd claim that he pole vaulted between them. Still, all known fakes are found strung together with paths of trampled crop, unlike the real ones. The plans that the men showed to reporters contained measurements that did not match the corresponding circles, and that would not have made the right angles. Finally, it's impossible for anyone to have made the circles the way Bauer and Chorley said they did.
Their actual artwork was that they were doing a hoax, that they were the ones creating the crop circles. It's like their only way to actually produce any like significant art or have any fame. They just became famous for being the guys who faked the fake crop circles.
Since flattening plants with a board invariably breaks the stalks, and produces none of the most puzzling biological effects, like the blown nodes or burns.
I mean, you can't deny that.
Viewed from the ground, a hoaxed formation is easy to tell from a genuine circle. Nevertheless, Bauer and Chorley inspired imitators, including John Lundberg and Rob Irving. Hoaxers now make upwards of 95% of circles around the world, and claim to have made them all. But no hoaxes have the features of a genuine formation, and no team of hoaxers has been able to successfully recreate a circle they took credit for. And of course, crop circles were around.
Okay, so you've got this one here, and you got that one. And I mean, still pretty cool. Doesn't seem quite as precise, but I don't know, that's just my... I don't know, the one on the left seems pretty damn precise. Still pretty impressive on the right, though.
Around long before 1978, when Bauer and Chorley claimed to have started them. In the early 1990s, crop formations took on new designs. 1991 saw a giant tetrahedron occupying 11,000...
The aliens are like, all right, try to fake this one.
square meters, a fractal pattern called the mandelbrot set, and a strange code or script.
Whoa.
The number of genuine circles dropped after Bauer and Chorley's revelations, but there were more than ever in 1994, with 110 reported formations.
Wow.
1995 saw the appearance of several maps of the solar system, and the year after saw the Julia set, made up of 149 different circles.
That's pretty intense. That's pretty cool. That's the Julia set. It's kind of related to the Mandelbrot.
The set was found within clear sight of Stonehenge, but not seen until the evening, only 45 minutes after a pilot and his passenger had flown over the area and seen nothing.
Really?
A triple Julia set appeared later that summer.
Wow.
After 1997, circles incorporated more complex geometry and depicted 3D shapes. Circles incorporate.
That looks really crazy. Dang.
Did more complex geometry and depicted 3D shapes. In the early 2000s, they played with perspective and illusion.
Wow.
By then, there had been about 10,000 genuine circles reported in 26 different countries. All circles relied heavily on naturally occurring mathematical concepts like the golden ratio, and featured esoteric symbols like Egyptian hieroglyphs, the Buddhist chakras.
Is that a real crop circle?
Ratio, and featured esoteric symbols like Egyptian hieroglyphs.
That is crazy.
The Buddhist chakras, and the Kabbalistic tree of life.
Doesn't this kind of fit into that whole idea that these intelligences are going to reveal themselves and tell us that we created all your religions?
In southern England, circle activity peaked in 2009.
Jeez. Reminds me of the Cheshire Cat. They call it the owl. Oh, okay.
Has been declining ever since, though formations still appear around the world.
2018.
Not all formations are laid in vegetation. Rings have also been carved into sheets of ice or drawn in snow.
That seems like... I mean, you could hop in there, do it, hop into the next one, hop into the next one. That I mean, I could see how you could fake that somehow. I don't know how you'd make it a perfect circle, assuming they are perfect circles. I don't know. They're all connected, sort of. There's a little bit of a gap there. It seems like you'd have to be pretty damn careful.
A number of researchers have noted that formations appear at the intersection of channels of Earth energies that Guy Underwood called geodetic lines, though the existence of these lines is rejected by mainstream science. BLT has shown that English circles appear most often where a giant electrically charged underground chalk aquifer is closest to the surface. In fields with frequent circle appearances, BLT has measured magnetic currents that dissipated after the appearance of a circle. The roots of plants in circles are also known to grow out in the opposite direction of the flattened stalk, suggesting a local change in the Earth's magnetic or gravitational fields. Some people claim to have seen circles being created. Witnesses claim that the crop is laid in a single fluid motion with no visible cause, and that clouds of steam or mist are created in the process. Some say it takes a few seconds, some a few minutes. People frequently see UFOs before or after a circle's appearance, and many see little balls of light. Several times these balls of light have been filmed and photographed. People also see columns of light before a circle's appearance, and have photographed these as well. There are many theories on the creative force behind the circles. Thalascoan ufologist Jacques Vallée suggested that the British military created the circles in trying to calibrate a secret focused microwave beam technology, but many feel that the makers are not human. Andrews stated that he believes the circles are manifested by some intelligent Earth force capable of interacting with human consciousness.
That's what I was thinking, is maybe it's like the Earth itself producing these, because they're on these magnetic, and they said there's chalk underneath the Earth, and maybe that's why they can only happen in certain places. I don't know.
Meaden eventually admitted that the more complex modern designs could not have been made by plasma alone, and retired from crop circle research. Freddie Silva, who worked with Andrews, has argued that the crops are laid with the use of sound, A number of experimenters dating back to the late 18th century have shown that when a fine granular substance is placed on a surface vibrating at a consistent tone, it arranges itself into complex geometric patterns. Flattened crops may be similarly patterned after inaudible vibrations.
That's interesting.
Delgado died in 2009, but Andrews and Taylor continue their studies, and Nancy Talbot continues the work of her past colleagues at BLT. Notable researchers today include Lucy Pringle, Freddie Silva, and Richard Taylor, among others. While hoaxes are common, it is quite clear that some circles, at least, are something more than human art. Trampling crop by mechanical means results in broken stalks.
It's a phenomenon that's been reported as far back as the 16th century, but it exploded in prominence starting in the 1980s. $1 opportunity being wasted by hoaxers for the sake of laughing at a few UFO believers. Or maybe it's not a hoax at all, because none of the evidence points to anomalous circles being reproducible by humans. Or are they? In 2002, the Discovery Channel ran a special on crop circles and recruited a team of 5 MIT students to hoax a crop circle convincingly. The students were given 3 criteria of a genuine crop circle: elongated plant stem nodes, expulsion cavities in the plant stems from water turning to steam, and 10 to 50 micro-diameter magnetized iron spheres in the soil, distributed linearly, a discovery from soil samples of anomalous circles. The students built a microwave device and even a device to shoot out iron particles, successfully creating their crop circle and triumphing for all of science over pseudoscience. The mystery had been solved by a bunch of graduate students, except it hadn't, and TV editing trickery, as well as overall intellectual
But even if they had been able to create them that way, that would kind of imply that whoever was creating them before had to have like ion particle shooters and shit. So it's like you're kind of only proving the point that they were made with some kind of microwave technology. It's kind of like weird thing to debunk it.
Ingenuity once more painted a false picture of the results. The students claimed to have replicated expulsion cavities using their microwave device, yet the audience was never shown a close-up of any of the affected crops. Instead, only a distant shot that made it unclear if the nodes had in fact experienced the signature explosion associated with steam under pressure. The team also failed to create magnetized iron spheres typically discovered in the soil of anomalous circles. Instead, the show displayed iron shavings that the MIT students had simply spread around the formation. The students had been shown microscopic photographs of what they were supposed to replicate, and yet no similar photographs of their iron shavings were ever made to prove that they had succeeded in creating the magnetized iron spheres found in real circles. Further, the iron shavings that the students sprayed into the field did not match the linear formation of magnetized iron spheres in anomalous circles. In short, the MIT team had completely failed at all of the criteria presented to them and yet declared victory. This is indicative of a wider bias amongst academia toward anything not in the mainstream. As we mentioned earlier in the show, if you ignore all the data you don't like, then it's safe to say that any mystery from a UAP to crop circles or even Bigfoot is resolved. When researching the BLT study that discovered the anomalous properties of crops inside of real circles, the most common critiques were as follows. 1. They focus on a correlation between effects but not causation. 2. There's a conflict of interest because the group is invested in crop circles and makes money from publishing books on the phenomenon. And
well, I mean, that kind of debunks all scientific research then, I guess.
3. If there was any scientific merit, then the rest of the scientific community would jump at the opportunity to investigate it. Yet this is in no way valid criticism.
No, because nobody would want to be associated with it, because then you'd be seen as crazy or something. But if you were like a genuine, real curious human being, you would just want to, investigate shit.
To address
And the fact that they have to do it for money is just because it takes time and resources to do shit. So you have to find a way to monetize it in the current economic system. If we had a system that was best for everybody, you'd be able to just freely like investigate shit. So those aren't really valid criticisms. Like MIT itself is heavily funded, so they have a vested interest too.
Point 1, if an unknown force is at work here, then determining causation becomes nearly impossible without further research. On the second point, Jacques Cousteau made money from his numerous documentary films. By that criteria, his research is questionable. And on the last point, the stigma of anything outside of, quote, normal, and the very real presence of deep scientific...
But they still don't explain why.
Well, hello. Happy New Year and welcome to the Astrology Hub podcast.
Let's see. I had to pause. I am flooding with tears and vibrating. I want to see if that happens to me.
Yards long.
I want to see if I would get flooded with tears and vibrate. All right, let's see. You guys ready? Real-time reaction.
Scientific way, from a spiritual perspective, it does make sense.
Can you share some of those examples? Will you be sharing some of those in the upcoming class?
I'll show you one now. Yeah, I'll show you the one of the classic example of a writing.
Oh my God.
Now that's about, I suppose, 150 yards long and 70 yards.
Oh, sorry guys, I had to pause it. I started vibrating so much. Whew! No tears though. But I definitely started vibrating there. No, but seriously, that is where'd it go? That was pretty intense. Dang. How long is it? Sorry, I had to make a joke, so I didn't hear what he said.
You can see the vesica and the shape of the circles above it and the swallow.
Oh my God.
Now that's about, I suppose, 150 yards long and 70 yards wide.
Wow, that's pretty big.
What the hell is going on in our fields? You know? But look at the geometry. You can see the vesica and the shape of the circles above it and the swallow. It's like a swallow's. It's like a picture of a swallow or a swift. And yet, there's this writing coming down from it. What's really interesting is that in the last 15 to 20 years, the interest from the kind of spook community has really faded away. You don't see helicopters anymore. Well, they've got drones nowadays, but you don't see helicopters. You don't see
the spooks like
that much
intelligence agency
governmental interest at all anymore. Because I think they've realised that they're not a threat and they're not a sign of imminent alien invasion or anything like that. So, due to my exposure of 45 years of astrology, and my interest in the esoteric, as well as sacred geometry, stuff I've been involved with all my life, and particularly reading the works of people like, for example, Terence McKenna, it gives me an insight into ideas on actually what the generating force behind the crop circle formations is.
Okay.
And where the crop circle makers actually live.
Okay.
And what or who they are.
Tell me why they do it.
Ooh.
And I'm sure you're aware through your own studies and experiences that once you've been doing something long enough and you become a master with it, you can sometimes just deliberately not focus on what you're looking at and turn off your mind consciously from what you're looking at which point something else comes in that gives you a much deeper or clearer insight into what's really going on. And then as soon as you start focusing on it, it's gone.
Yes.
I get that all the time with a crop circle.
She's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Actually, though, I can relate to that when I read. Like, especially if I read something very dense, when I'm focusing on it, like I'll understand what's being said, but then when I stop focusing on it, like I will realize even more the meaning within it, if that makes sense. Like, it could even be something like science fiction, like reading Dune or something like that. You're reading it, it's making sense, and then like when you're not reading it, then you'll just start realizing all these other layers and depth to it and connections and so forth. So I can relate to that from that perspective. And I think, you know, like mathematicians talk about that, where like they focus on a problem and then they stop thinking about it, and then like they're in the shower and they're like, oh, they suddenly realize the solution to it. So that's like a common thing.
Of course. It's one of them where you walk in to a fresh crop circle and you prickle. All the hairs on your arm and the back of your neck stick up. And you can hear in a fresh one, this really like trilling of lots of very high electrical bird song. It's not bird song, but it sounds like it. And you just think, oh, it's getting louder, it's getting louder. And I don't want to look at it, I don't want to focus. And then you can't help, you say, okay, what is that? At which point it stops. And as soon as you put your three-dimensional human conscious attention on it, it stops. There's an element of trickster around the crop circle makers as well. They do have a sense of humor. Trust me on this. Every time some learned, academic, predominantly male mathematician says, I've got the answer, I know where they're from, I know what's making, this is my answer to the crop circles, within days a new crop circle will happen, which completely disproves that theory.
Wow, that's awesome.
I love it. It's prankster energy. Thing is, Amanda, I hope we never find out the science behind it.
What?
I cannot explain it. I cannot understand it. I know it. I feel it. I live it. But don't ask me to explain it.
But I came here for you to explain it, you asshole. I want answers. Maybe there are no answers. You just have to believe. It's just a mystery, I suppose. Mandelbrot Zoom. Well, hold on. I'll put on some music. What? I think I just spelled it wrong. What am I looking for? Am I just spelling it wrong? Mojave Plan. Maybe that's what it is. There we go. I just had the wrong word. There you go. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. This is where the crop circles come from. just never ends. Remember they were talking about the Juliet set? Do they have a Zoom? Deepest mandelbrot set ever. It's like you're going into outer space. Whoa, this one's fast. I got a full screen of it. Man, this one's intense. Where are we going? So fast you can't see anything. Holy shit. That was crazy. And I mean, that was just a zoom. I mean, it could probably keep going forever. I mean, it literally could. Mandelbrot. I think it was invented by Howie Mandel. The Howie Mandelbrot set. Mandelbrot. Mandelbrot set equation. It's just this equation. That's it. Now, I don't know how they graph it. Let's see. How to graph. So how do people actually make those? The complex equations of the Mandelbrot set explained.
American mathematician Benoit B. Mandelbrot arises in the study of complex numbers. We begin by picking some number c in the complex plane. Using c, we will define a complex function. Basically, this function takes in a number, multiplies it by itself, adds c, and spits out the result. If you draw the Mandelbrot set in the complex plane, you get a very intricate shape. Infinitely intricate, in fact, making it a fractal. Zooming in, we see that it is a self-similar fractal at certain points of shape.
I was distracted by Keith's sausage comments. I missed the part about how you actually graph it. Okay, so what was the...
Multiplies it by itself, adds c in the complex plane.
So you choose a complex number. You choose a number in the complex plane, which is all the numbers you can imagine on one line, and then all of those times the square root of -1 is the y-axis. That creates a complex number when you add them together like a vector. Okay.
Using c, we will define a complex function. Basically, this function takes in a number, multiplies it by itself, adds c.
So I guess you just choose a number, all right? Or just the plot of all of them. Okay, I guess. I don't understand how you choose z, but...
c, and spits out the result. If you draw the Mandelbrot set in the complex plane, you get a very intricate shape. Infinitely intricate, in fact, making it a fractal. Zooming in, we see that it is a self-similar fractal at certain points, and a variety of other patterns can be found. Due to its intricacy, the Mandelbrot set has been cited as an example of mathematical beauty, particularly how complex patterns can arise from simple definitions.
Sierpinski carpet. A fractal tree. That's pretty cool. Hausdorff dimension. Where did it explain that? Fractal geometry relates to the mathematical branch of measure theory by their Hausdorff dimension. A fractal dimension. The Hausdorff dimension of a single point is 0, of a line is 1, square is 2, cube is 3. That is, for sets of points that define a smooth shape or a shape that has a small number of corners, the shapes of traditional geometry and science, the Hausdorff dimension is an integer. Okay. However, formulas have also been developed that allow calculation of the dimension of other less simple objects, where solely on the basis of their properties of scaling and self-similarity, one is led to the conclusion that particular objects, including fractals, have non-integer Hausdorff dimensions. Example of non-integer dimensions. The first 4 iterations of the Koch curve, where after each iteration, all original line segments are replaced with 4, each a self-similar copy. So you take this, and then you replace each line segment with a copy. Okay. And you keep doing that. Many fractals are nowhere differentiable. Yeah, no shit. An infinite fractal curve can be conceived of as winding through space differently from an ordinary line. Although it is topologically one-dimensional, its fractal dimension indicates that it locally fills space more efficiently than an ordinary line. Huh. Fractals are not limited geometric patterns, but can also describe processes in time. Fractal time process. I am not clicking on a LinkedIn link. Critical exponents and universality for fractal time. Oh geez, I feel like that might be a little bit vocabulary intensive. Fractal topology of time. Huh. Cantor ternary set. Julia set. Oh, I want to know about that thing with the Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock fractals. Complex self-similar structures that repeat at different scales. While not mathematical fractals, these limited range fractals mimic natural scenes. The initial studies of fractal expressionism focus on the poured paintings by Jackson Pollock, whose work has traditionally been associated with the abstract expressionist movement. In 1997, Taylor built a pendulum device called the Pollockizer, which painted fractal patterns bearing a similarity to Pollock's work. Computer analysis of Pollock's works published by Taylor found that Pollock's painted patterns have characteristics that match those displayed by nature's fractals. Pollock says his paintings are no accident and that he was able to control the flow of paint onto the canvas. The first is Pollock's motion as he moved around the canvas, which Taylor hypothesized followed a levee flight. That was in that last article. They're talking about levee. A random walk in which the step lengths have a stable distribution and probability distribution is heavy-tailed. Levee flight was coined after Paul Levy by Mandelbrot. Markov processes. A memoryless property of stochastic processes, which means that its future evolution is independent of its history. More specifically, a number of studies have shown that the motions associated with human balance have fractal characteristics. Huh. The second source of chaos could be introduced through Pollak's pouring technique. Falling fluid has the capability of changing from a non-chaotic to a chaotic flow, meaning that Pollak could have introduced a chaotic flow of paint as he dripped it on the canvas. Although the fractal characteristics of human balance and falling liquid are generated on Pollak's painting time and length scales, this guy notes that it would be quite an artistic challenge to control them. More than 10 research groups have used various forms of fractal analysis to successfully quantify Pollak's work. Fractal fluency is a neuroscience model that proposes that through exposure to nature's fractal scenery, people's visual systems have adapted to efficiently process fractals with ease. This adaptation occurs at many stages of the visual system, from the way people's eyes move to which regions in the brain get activated. Fluency puts the viewer into a comfort zone, so inducing an aesthetic experience. Neuroscience experiments have shown that Pollak's paintings induce the same positive physiological responses in the observer as nature's fractals and mathematical fractals. I'm kind of curious. Wait. My first paper appeared in Nature and debunked claims that the drip paintings of Jackson Pollock can be considered fractal. The extent to which his paintings can be considered fractal is a very limited one, and to the same extent many other images can be considered fractal as well. Okay.
Painted this piece in 1950 on the floor of his barn. He's at a period of sobriety. You could tell by the quality of his work at this point. It wasn't dark. He'd use paintbrushes and he would sweep around his canvas just like this on the floor of his barn and then step back and find what was next. And what most people don't realize, he would say that his work is not chaos, that nothing is accidental. And you look at it and you say, well, it is chaotic and it does appear to be accidental. But they've done scientific analysis of Jackson Pollock's work now. You can see an article in Scientific American, for example, where they studied his work and applied fractals to it. Fractals is a mathematical formula for the growth of and curve of all things in nature. And what they found is that Jackson Pollock's work is layers of fractals upon fractals. Now, the human mind is not capable in its conscious state of creating fractals. Jackson Pollock was...
Sure it is. I can create a fractal easily. Just take a triangle and split it and make another triangle. So, I don't know about that. It is interesting, though. This guy's like... Oh, is that Jackson Pollock right there? Jackson Pollock painted like children do. Fractal analysis shows. Huh. So he didn't know what he was doing. He was just playing. But I mean, if you think about it, like a child, when they paint, like everything they're doing, generally speaking, is deliberate. Even if they're like a 4-year-old, like they're doing something very deliberate. It may not be something you can recognize, but... Oh, he looks different. I think I was just imagining he was that actor from the movie. Like I literally, in my mind, he's that actor. I forget who it is that played him in the movie, but I was literally imagining he was that guy. Who was that guy that played him in the movie? Let's see. There was like a movie about him. Oh, who was it? Ed Harris, yeah. I was literally imagining Ed Harris. Not at all what I thought he looked like. That's pretty funny. Here's from Wyoming. Youngest of 5 brothers. Scottish-Irish descent. Farmers. Prometheus. Interesting. It's a weird ass painting. The Greek titan Prometheus stealing fire from the heavens to give to humans. The titan responsible for creating or aiding humanity in its earliest days. He defied the Olympian gods by taking fire from them and giving it to humanity in the form of technology, knowledge, and more generally, civilization. So he's basically the serpent in the garden. In some versions, he's created with the creation of humanity from clay. Sometimes presented as the father of Deucalion, the hero of the flood story. Prometheus was bound to a rock, and an eagle, a symbol of Zeus, was sent to eat his liver. In ancient Greece, the liver was thought to be the seat of human emotions. His liver would grow back overnight, only to be eaten again. Prometheus, in another myth, he establishes the animal sacrifice. It's kind of weird. So Prometheus means forethought, and Epimetheus, his brother, means afterthought. Damn, that's dark. Hesiod visits the story of Prometheus and the theft of fire in Works and Days. In it, the poet expands upon Zeus's reaction to Prometheus's deception. Not only does Zeus withhold fire from humanity, but the means of life as well. Doesn't that sound like the Bible? Like Genesis? Had Prometheus not provoked Zeus's wrath, you would easily do work enough in a day to supply you for a full year, even without working. Even though you didn't have technology. Soon would you put away your rudder over the smoke, and the fields worked by ox and sturdy mule would run to waste. The first woman, a maiden crafted from earth and water by Hephaestus, now explicitly called Pandora. Oh. Is that what they mean by Pandora's box? Zeus, in this case, gets the help of Athena, Aphrodite, Hermes, the Graces, and the Hours. After Prometheus steals fire, Zeus sends Pandora in retaliation. Despite Prometheus' warning, Epithemius accepts this gift from the gods. Pandora carried a jar with her from which were released mischief and sorrow, plague and diseases. Pandora shuts the lid of the jar too late to contain all the evil blight that escaped. But Hope is left trapped in the jar because Zeus forces Pandora to seal it up before Hope can escape. That's interesting, man. That's like literally the story of Genesis. I mean, not literally, but it's the same story. It's the same story. Look, trickster. That's what that guy talking about the crop circles was saying. Prometheus, a reflection of an ancient pre-Hesiodic trickster figure who served to account for the mixture of good and bad in human life. Enuma Elish. Billie Eilish. Trickster. It's a character in a story who exhibits a great degree of intellect or secret knowledge and uses it to play tricks or otherwise disobey normal rules and defy conventional behavior. It's an archetypal character, a boundary crosser. The trickster crosses and often breaks both physical and societal rules. They violate principles of social and natural order, playfully disrupting normal life and then reestablishing it on a new basis. Hermes plays the trickster. Loki. Brer Rabbit. Praying mantis. Huh. Mantids. Terrence and Dennis McKenna's 1971 contact experiences with an alien other described as mantis-like entity on the bridge of a starship. Insect engineers. It's so weird. I was listening to something earlier today, which wasn't particularly interesting, but I was just letting my algorithm recommend music based on something else I had chosen. Where'd it go? Insectoid intelligence. Plastic mind antenna. Dot product, matrix multiplication, dot product vectors, all that. Everything plus one, space caves. Huh. It's not particularly interesting, but Terrence McKenna described encountering intelligent mantis-like entities or insect engineers during DMT experiences, often describing them as cold, precise, and utterly alien. That's some weird shit. Hyperdimensional pirates. What are they pirating? Terrence McKenna. He died in 2000? That's crazy. Look, we went full circle. Wasn't I talking about Terrence McKenna the other day? McKenna formulated a concept about the nature of time based on fractal patterns he discovered to have claimed in the I Ching. What novelty theory? Ah, that's interesting. Novelty theory. This makes me think of that Jason Giorgiani point. He thinks there's a trickster super intelligence that wants us to create novelty. Close friend of chaos mathematician Ralph Abraham and author biologist Rupert Sheldrake. I was just listening to one of his conversations earlier today. Longtime sufferer of migraines, began to have usually extreme and painful headaches. In addition to that, he described entering a powerful altered state of consciousness with hallucinations and perceptual distortions in conjunction with multiple seizures. Damn. A highly aggressive form of brain cancer. Gamma Knife. Such a cool name. That'd be like a cool name for a band. I'm surprised there isn't one. There's an album called Gamma Knife by K.O. Dot. Avant-garde metal band, K.O. Dot. What is avant-garde metal? Gamma Knife Grey Dream. This is Christmas music. Apparently avant-garde metal is just bells. Don't enjoy it. Goetic Evocation. I mean, it's such a cool name. Okay, wait, where'd it go? But then there was another one. Gamma Knife. What happened here? Gamma Knife. What the hell? That's not the page we were on. We were definitely on a different page. That's strange. Redirected from Gamma Knife. That's really weird. That's definitely not the page I was on. Oh well. I was going to look at that other group. Where were we? I always thought death would come on the freeway in a few horrifying moments, so you'd have no time to sort it out. Having months and months to look at it and think about it and talk to people and hear what they have to say, it's kind of a blessing. Damn. He was worried that the tumor might have been caused by his psychedelic drug use or his 35 years of daily cannabis smoking. However, his doctors assured him there was no causal relation. He got divorced in 92. Huh. That's crazy, right? All of that exploring of the dimensions, and you miss what's here. After his mother's death from cancer. Okay, so wait, so hold on a second. He was at Berkeley. That same year, okay, he began studying shamanism in Tibetan folk religion, and he called his opium and Kabbalah phase. And then he married this woman, goes to Nepal, tries to get shamans, studied Tibetan, worked as a hashish smuggler. What? And he wandered through Asia viewing ruins. Then his mom died of cancer, and then he went to get DMT. Instead, they got a bunch of mushrooms. At the urging of his brother, McKenna was the subject of a psychedelic experiment in which the brothers attempted to bond harmine DNA with their own neural DNA. Harmine is another psychedelic compound they use synergistically with the mushrooms. Through the use of a set of specific vocal techniques. What the fuck? They hypothesized that this would give them access to the collective memory of the human species and would manifest the alchemist's philosopher's stone, which they viewed as a hyperdimensional union of spirit and matter. He claimed that the experiment put him in contact with Logos, an informative divine voice he believed was universal to visionary religious experience. Dude. What's this stuff about the I Ching? Is it actually a fractal? There's a website, I Ching Online. Lao Tzu. Interquestion. What? We started with 2 leading English translations. Perhaps when reflecting on these 4 interpretations, the true meaning might reveal itself spontaneously. Or Wu Wei by you not doing anything. If I don't want to do anything, I might as well not even put a question. The verse of the day. Let's see what our verse of the day is. The people who do not fear death. To what purpose is it to try to frighten them with death? If the people were always in awe of death, and I could always seize those who do wrong and put them to death, who would dare to do wrong? There is always one who presides over the infliction death. He who would inflict death in the room of him whoso presides over it may be described as hewing wood instead of a great carpenter. Seldom is it that he who undertakes the hewing instead of the great carpenter does not cut his own hands. All right? If you realize that all things change, there is nothing you will try to hold on to. If you aren't afraid of dying, there is nothing you can't achieve. Trying to control the future is like trying to take the master carpenter's place. When you hold the master carpenter's tools, chances are that you'll cut your hand. Doesn't that seem to contradict the first statement, though? Seems a little bit contradictory. If you realize that all things change, there's nothing you will try to hold on to. If you aren't afraid of dying, there's nothing you can achieve. Trying to control the future is like trying to take the master carpenter's place. When you handle the master carpenter's tools, chances are that you'll cut your hand. But if you're not afraid of dying, why would you give a shit? People do not fear death. How can they be threatened with death? People are made to constantly fear death. Then those who act unlawfully, I can capture and kill them. Who would dare? There exists a master executioner that kills. If we substitute for the master executioner to kill, it is like substituting for the great carpenter to cut. Those who substitute for the great carpenter to cut, it is rare that they do not hurt their own hands. You ask for more teaching, do not kill. There is a God who will take care of that. Seems a little bit like, don't try to change anything. Like, is that really what Lao Tzu said? Come on. Seems a little weird. Tips on using. Analysis is what the I Ching Oracle does best. Okay. Your daily reading. I'm not clicking that. Hell no. In the opening screen, enter your question in the text box. You don't need to enter a question. Writing it down is optional, but it helps your concentration on the issue if you formulate it within written form. It will help you get your topic in the air, and it helps for printing purposes as well. Only ask serious questions. Don't test the I Ching. If you don't take the I Ching seriously, it will not work. Do not ask yes or no, like, should I quit my job now? Better pose a question as, what will happen if I quit my job now? How do I enter the question? Oh, that's just a picture, okay. You can choose between two methods for throwing coins. Throw coins virtually or throw coins by hand. Nothing wrong with virtual coins, but if you insist on using your own ones, you have to... Okay. What the fuck? Do I have to know all this before I do it? Jeez. Situational analysis. So how do I do it? Oh, I guess that was the first page I was on. Oh, new question. What will happen if we create a world that is best for all? That's the kind of question, right? Like, what would happen if I quit my job? Okay, throw the coins 6 times. I'm going to throw them virtually because I don't have my coins with me today. Push the button 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, here's my hexagram 59. Let's read it. Disillusion. Wind carries the mists aloft. Sage rulers. I love the ad on the side here. very Taoist. Hell is that? Who is that little guy in there? IQ 150. She's, what is in her throat? Did she swallow a bunch of pills? Oh man, okay. Wind carries the mists aloft. Sage rulers dedicate their lives to serving a higher power and built temples that still endure. The king approaches his temple. Success if you stay on course. You may cross to the far shore. Walls meant to protect have instead separated and isolated. Your defenses have kept you apart from those whom you most need to touch. Whatever the reason for discord between you, it is time to lay down your arms. Dispel the inflexible demands and fears of the mind so that you may reunite in the heart. If you have begrudged, forgive. If you have torn down, repair. If you have injured, heal. If you have judged, pardon. If you have grasped, let go. Okay. And that seems like good advice, generally speaking. There are two changing lines. He who scatters his group far and wide, those who return will be of firmer resolve and leaner, stronger fiber, an ingenious move. Oh, he scatters his group far and wide. Those who return will be of firmer resolve and leaner, stronger fiber, an ingenious move. All right. A dead sea. Its waters spent eons ago, more deadly than the desert surrounding it. The superior person will stake his life and fortune on what he deeply believes. Well, that makes sense. Triumph belongs to those who endure. Trial and tribulation can hone exceptional character to a razor edge that slices deftly through every challenge. Action prevails where words will fail. Some good shit. This is the realm of the shaman. You have exhausted every alternative, spent yourself completely, taxed body and mind beyond your former limits. Survival and salvation lie beyond your reach now. Only transcendence to a new existence, a higher plane of being, will see you through. The old you is just a dry husk. You can't return to it. Metamorphosis is the only grace offered. You can only return to your homeland as a new you. Trigram symbols. Image, wind, wood. Qualities. Gentle, penetrating, gradual, honest, simple, subtle, transitory, shifting, elusive, whispering, caressing, indecisive. What does all this mean? Direction, family member, color. I don't really understand how to interpret any of that. This must be like the encryption stuff, because I don't understand what any of that means. I remember reading this book. Man, I can't figure out which book it is. I tried asking AI and it couldn't figure it out. But it was a book by Frederick Pohl, and he was talking about, it was like these people going on a spaceship to like another planet, and like one of the characters used the I Ching, and it was like kind of like getting into like the quantum mechanics of it or something. It was quite interesting. It's pretty cool though. I liked some of that. It's pretty interesting wisdom. Where's that other one? The realm of the shaman. Trial and tribulation can hone exceptional character to a razor edge that slices deftly through every challenge. Action prevails where words will fail. Triumph belongs to those who endure. That's pretty cool. I'm also very interested in this, though. I only have 2 moves. I really don't know what the moves are. I wonder if I could put the options into the I Ching and it could help me solve that problem. That would be interesting. All right, well, whoever's with me still, that was interesting. Yeah, we didn't get to the bottom of the crop circles, but maybe it's just a mystery. Maybe it's just the trickster archetype fucking with us. Maybe it's our own unconscious creating images so that we still can believe there's some mystery out there. And if only we could solve the mystery of the crop circles, then we would know who's behind everything, and then they would save us, or we could fight them. Or we could just figure out ways to communicate with each other here on Earth, because like I don't see how you can ever solve that mystery. Even if aliens came out of the sky and said it was us, we did it. Could you really trust that? Like, what would you do? Be like, oh, okay, all right, well, we trust you. Like, or would you be like, dude, what? Hold on, like, explain everything to me, like in detail, every single detail. Don't leave anything out. Explain to me the whole story, because you can't just come out of the sky and tell me, oh yeah, we've been here all along, so now you know we're gonna help you. I'd be like, you need to fucking explain where the hell you've been. Maybe that's what the I Ching was talking about. You can only return to your homeland as a new you. Become like a child. Like Jackson Pollock. I feel like there's a lot of dots that we've connected here, but like in a fractal way and in a very chaotic way. Somehow, Jackson Pollock, chaos, fractals, UFOs, disclosure, the Stanford Research Institute, and consciousness uploading, AI, they're all connected somehow. And I think it really just connects to the point of nobody's really taking responsibility for... We are not taking responsibility for who we are. We're looking for something that's going to save us. We're looking for something else to take responsibility. Instead of just like, oh, what was I thinking about the other day? It was, or yesterday, or it was this morning. It was, it was such a cool insight. I was talking to Katie about something. It was just that, I guess it was just that point of like, I mean, the Terrence McKenna thing made me think of it. I feel like there's somebody else, some other thing I was looking at, and it's just realizing like the point that we are always looking for the answers outside, but not really just sorting out like really mundane, basic things within ourselves. Like when you walk by the trash can and you see that it's full, and then your mind goes, you know, yeah, I could take it out, and I don't really want to do that right now. I could probably get away with not taking it out. You know, my wife, she'll probably be upset with me, but I'll just say, you know, I got something else I had to do, like, or I didn't notice it, or something else. I'll figure out. And then you like play out this whole scenario, and if you just stop in that moment and go, you know, I could just prevent all of that. I could literally just do it now. You know, or you know, you could look at it and be like, okay, literally right now I have something I have to do. I have to take care of this first, and then I can come back and do that. And that's the point of self-honesty. But how many times do we just make up a story in our minds that just gets us out of some kind of responsibility in that moment? And then we play out all of the stuff in our mind of how we'll somehow get out of the responsibility. Because if there's going to be any kind of transformation in our world, it's not going to come from fucking aliens. I should rephrase that. It's not going to come from aliens. It's not going to come from AI doing something. Like, yeah, stuff like that's going to happen. I don't know if there's going to be aliens. I mean, I don't think so, but there's definitely AI, and we're definitely creating something with AI, but it's just going to be another way of manipulating ourselves. You know, it's not going to do anything for us fundamentally. It's just going to be another way to kick the can down the road. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with all this weird disclosure shit. I feel like we haven't got to the bottom of it yet. But I think I'll leave it at that for tonight. And for those of you who stuck around, appreciate you in the chat. And see you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.